Hello, my name is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Ashanti Ghania. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ashanti Ghania. I am an animator for various studios, including Warner Brothers, Disney, and Sesame Street. Finish the good one.
All right, so where are you from and how was it growing up? What is your origin story?
I grew up in Oakland, California, an arts magnet. Been to San Francisco for my senior year, where a teacher there got me into Cal Arts. And from Cal Arts, I became an animator. Typical animator geek kid. Draw all the time. Get bored in regular schools, where it's more about popularity and less about the academics. I was finishing my homework way too early and becoming apathetic. And thankfully, my mother had a friend who actually worked for the school district and gave me a test of confidence where you fill in the bubbles. I was just putting who cares, who cares, who cares, who cares, just being 8 years old throughout. So she campaigned for me to change schools by the sixth grade to what I was back then, which is more project oriented and had more. So there's more homework. So mom didn't come home and I had finished my homework like the half hour before she walked in the door. And yeah, happily ever after that, pretty much. It's a nurturing environment with arts magnets.
So, what would you say are your best childhood memories?
School. Um, Arts magnet. Oh my gosh, the teachers, the curriculum was, oh gosh, the structure was art structured. So, for example, my science teacher, best example. Um, Instead of dissecting frogs, we drew the organs of the body and where they are. And that's how we memorized it. At the end of chapters, we would do our own stories, our own interpretations of the chapter. So she would always get like a Schoolhouse Rock type of story of blood cells and stuff like that from me. Um, Sadly, that school closed down due to limited low enrollment because there aren't a lot of people who draw in the world. Every time I told someone I went to an art school, they're like, "Is it like fame?" If you're Gen X, you know that movie and that show, a performing arts school. It was not a performing arts school, which gets a lot more people, and it took I think another 10 or 15 years for the Oakland Public School District to get a clue and expand an art school from just visual arts all the way to performing arts. So now Oakland has its own performing arts school. But I transferred to School of the Arts, which is now called Ruth Asawa School of the Arts in San Francisco, after the Oakland art school closed. And it did have a performing arts division as well as a visual arts division. So that school endured. I graduated from there. And I had a teacher there who attracted colleges from all over the place, and she just got us all in. She was really brilliant at that. Her name is Monica.
Um, what is your cultural makeup? That's not to say what's your ethnicity, but what is the culture of where you grew up and the uniqueness of where you're from?
I'd say it's quite unique, seeing how people think I'm from another world. I grew up it's in Oakland, and people just think of, International Boulevard in Oakland. No, not all of Oakland is like that. Not at all. Because you're right next to Berkeley, okay, which has a world-class university. Unique in the way that I grew up in an artist community, and fortunate enough to grow up in the artist community. So if you look at the negativity, that a kid can get into, and that a lot of Gen X kids got into, just think of that crack epidemic. With that, I'm so happy for school. Because people look at me, it's like, oh, there's no one like you. It's like, well, I'm a cartoon, I'm no different from any other animator. Once you get to Cal Arts, it's like, you're no different from any other animator.
Right.
But, unique enough, that I grew up with cartoons. I think of myself as a cartoon because you're an actor when you are an animator. And I just kind of like have my own world, and it it did well for the environment. Thank goodness I went to school in that area that I grew up with, which had the California College of Arts and Crafts right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So it was art everywhere. And UC Berkeley, and that school had I went to had the professor's kids in it, which is a
Mm-hmm.
mile down the road. So it's kind of like academia, geek unique, if you want to call it that.
What's your family makeup? Do you have siblings or?
I'm an only child, which is probably why I had time to draw so much, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people with siblings, they can't do that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate.
What is your favorite tradition growing up from your family?
Cooking. It relaxes
Okay.
me. It's like it's another
Mm-hmm.
talent to have. You like put out these I don't know, these apps like how do you relax? It's like music, and it's like yeah, but I come home when I cook, and yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
just one your house for food, when you come home from work. But then again,
So
I'm
who
only
did?
cooking for myself and my family.
Mm-hmm. So who did you cook with? Like, what was the background of the tradition that was kind of created?
Visiting grandma in the summer. She taught me how to
Mm-hmm.
cook because mom didn't have time to cook, but she was a single working mom. So
Mm-hmm.
visiting grandmas in the summer down south, and you grow up with the fresh vegetables and the kitchen, and you know, bonding with your family, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Like, what part of the South did your grandmas live in?
Greenville, Mississippi.
Yeah, my mom's father is from Mississippi. Was your mother supportive of your artistic interests?
Reluctantly supportive. She wanted me to be an engineer, but I couldn't get past the algebra. Me and my math teacher loved each other. He thought I was a unicorn, but I couldn't get past the algebra. I finally figured it out, like, I don't know, like 3 years ago through an app. It's like, kids today have such great study materials that we did not have at Gen X. Gosh, millennials and Gen Z is lucky. You're so lucky. God, CD-ROMs. All you had was the math book that explained nothing. Growing up when I was a kid. Never
Well,
even heard of
millennials didn't have
trademarked.
apps growing up either. Like, I just loved math, to be honest. I used to
Yeah.
draw angles and find them with the protractor for fun, but we didn't have
Oh
apps
yeah,
growing
that's
up.
geometry, visual math, yes. Algebra, a different demon,
I I went up to AP
But
calculus, so I'm a unique. I actually was going to become an engineer before I found animation. So like,
you can
I was your
still
mother's
do it.
dream.
You can practice right now. I would
Yeah.
recommend it.
So, what would you say you love about animation?
Moving illustrations and stories. It's like you can create a painting. It's like, yeah, there's the painting on the wall. It's gorgeous. Or you can animate it. So Walt Disney's Fantasia, Alice in Wonderland, Sleeping Beauty, all of those great design films really, really, really resonate. They go to El Dorado, Picture from
Mm-hmm.
Dreamworld, yeah, those films really resonate with me. And the art direction is just like, wow, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to draw that, you have to paint that, and it's moving, and the story. Well, actually, all pieces have stories, but this one is commercial and it like resonates right away.
Yeah. In your childhood, did you have a relationship with animation, or was it more art focused, and then you were introduced to animation later? What was that journey?
What's funny was my sibling. When I figured out to draw him when I was 7 years old, I switched from wanting to become a stewardess when I was 6.5, visiting grandma in the summers, to wanting to draw Bugs Bunny when I grew up. And I was determined to do so, and I ignored all social prompts, social prompts. In other words, why aren't you into boys? Go away, boy. I want to draw Bugs Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I did. Thank you very much. Upon graduating from CalMars, I drew Bugs Bunny.
Did you fall in love with any other things throughout your childhood after Bugs Bunny?
Starscream was my first gay husband, if you're familiar with Transformers, the original G1 Transformers. Chris Latta is a brilliant voice artist. He really made every character there that he voiced. He voiced a lot of them. Starscream, Cobra Commander, Gung Ho, Wheeljack, all kinds of great characters. Voice artists. Mad respect for them. Love the character designs in the DIC cartoons. Think Heathcliff with Cadillac Cats, love Cleo. She and her pink leg warmers. Beverly Hills Teens, also Gemini Holograms, and Galaxy High School, which I thought was just marvelous. I love the production style on that cartoon. So I was kind of spoiled and expecting to work on cartoons like that, but sadly they disappeared by late 90s. It's the girls cartoons or just attractive cartoons. It's like, here comes anime, which I loved. I helped usher it in along with the other animation gigs, but it's kind of like, studios are like, why should we do anything beautiful when anime's there? Now everybody work on adult prime time. We'll go into that later.
That's kind of reminding me. I have conversations with a couple peers about like the ugliness of some animation, like particularly in the 90s. Like
in the late 90s, it's just like, what happened? My mom would have slapped me silly if I went through the world thinking that it revolved around me, and I was not supposed to do anything to improve myself. Yeah, that really made me angry with the premise of one of those shows that I worked on, which I'm pretty sure we'll get to later. You'll get me on a tirade now. Let's continue.
Well, we can get to it now because this is the part where we list out a few of the projects, not every project, but the idea is for the people watching to be like, oh, somebody who looked like me worked on the shows that I watched. So you worked on Space Jam, Pinky and the Brain, Futurama, The Heartaches, Polly Pocket, Peaky and Poco, Adventures in Starland, an extremely goofy movie, Dilbert, The New Electric Company, and many more things. So do you have any kind of notable stories or anything that you can think about from the things you worked on in the past?
Oh, wow. They were all memorable. Space Jam just came out of the blue. I had no idea that was going to happen. Warner Brothers met me my second year of Cal Arts. It would be my third year of college. I went to another college before Cal Arts. So they told me, you should get a fine arts education first. Probably because I did. So I went to another school first. So went to Warner Brothers, had a blast there. I was like the most spoiled intern ever. And since no one wanted to work on the film, because the film to work on at the time was Pocahontas. That was the prestige film, and every other film was below, the animators. And you have to go the seasoned animators, and you have to give them credit. They've worked on He-Man and She-Ra, which is fun for the audience, probably not good creatively for them, maybe. They paid their dues in the 80s, and they're finally on prestige projects. So Pocahontas and Prince of Egypt were the films that sucked in all of the experienced animators. And there was a war for animators at that time in 1995. Even Space Jam saw a few people who were lying around a dead dream once borrowed them. Anyway. Anyway, since no one wanted to work on Space Jam, they gave the interns a lot of power.
Nice.
And first they said, okay, everyone's not trying to design the Monstars. I did some work on the Monstars. So I just thought of all the creeps at Venice Beach. If you've ever skated at Venice Beach. That's what I put into the Monstars. The Patrick Ewing character and the Barkley character have most of my influence on it. Yeah, Beach. Anyway. But I discovered there was a girl. And she was just like me, And just like a character in an anime that I was obsessed with, Arama 1000, she was just like a Kane Sendo. Lola Bunny, a meter maid, and all these guys kept hitting on it. And of course, I was 25, so, or no, 23. So of course, you're in the heat of this. He's gonna like kill him, and that's exactly what he did. That's the way Lola was written. She was sexy without really realizing she was sexy. And she was getting sick of guys hitting on her, and she would like play horrible pranks, like tie them around. She was a meter maid, tie them around meter poles, and so on and so forth in hilarious ways. Well, somehow down the line, and producers know what they're doing. They know that a woman who's not interested in men, who's extremely alluring, is highly offensive. So that was written out of the script. But they let me have her anyway, an intern, and the rest of the animators and designers who also couldn't wait to work on the character because girls are fun to draw, girls are fun to design. They helped me with my skills and applied their own more seasoned skills to her to bring it together. But and just used my drawings of me being able to resonate with the character so much, just fighting back. I was also a girl jock as a kid, and being able to hold your own with boys, there's much need to be friends with girls anyway. Great. And and bring her and bring most of what the way she was written in the script to the film. A lot was whittled down. People say Lola has no personality, and like, yes, she does. It's just still in the script, and we can't bring it down there. Yeah. People were saying, there's no one like this character, so we can't really, there's no precedent. And I thought of it later. I think that happens in the industry. It's like you get, while you're working in this, you get the script, you have all these ideas in your storyboard, and you can't think of all your ideas at once when they come later.
Yeah.
And I did not think of Emma Peel from the Avengers. That's the precedent of Lola. Emma Peel, Diana Rigg, doesn't realize she's sexy. She's too busy kicking butt, to really pay attention to herself. Otherwise, little piece in the mirror, get into this fabulous jumpsuit, and beat everyone up, who needs to be beaten up. That's the precedent for Lola. And it was kind of disheartening that a year later, like after Space Jam comes out, here comes Xena.
Yeah. Warrior Princess.
We could have made Lola as she is. There is Xena, and that character's popular. Die.
Right. Because the idea is like that they're like, there's no precedent. Why don't you set the precedent?
They couldn't risk it. Warner Brothers was produced also by Universal's Ivan Reitman's group. Ivan Reitman of Ghostbusters. And the execs at Warner Brothers, some exec called Ivan Reitman and said, we gave you the Looney Tunes, the family jewels. Do not mess up. We were harnessed. We were restrained. Even Bugs is more like a straight man than that person Space Jam. We were restrained. We had restraints in us. We can only get free with Daffy. Goofy movie was a dream. I got to work on hip characters in college. Also, character design. Futurama was the wake-up call. That this is what it's like to be an animator in the industry, a cog animator, with someone who's just supposed to make things move, as a character layout artist. No preferential treatment. The producer doesn't care about you, but she's not supposed to. She has other things to do. Okay, I'm not saying that the producer's awful. It's like producers being a producer. They're not not the intern gets spoken to. No, this is the job of animation, and I really, really, really hated the premise of Fry's character in that show. As I mentioned earlier, how dare you be this underachiever and expect the world to revolve around you? my family would have torn me apart. You don't mess with my mom, okay? It's like she comes home. I work, and you don't have homework to do? Yeah, you bet you're working. In school they gave me more work to do. You do not
Mhm.
loaf around when everyone else is killing themselves.
Mhm.
And that that trope permeates throughout adult content. And I
Mhm.
felt that after Futurama and then having to go to Dilbert by another loser, who expect, the world revolves around him. Yes, he's an engineer, but he's a whiner, and it's just like, yeah, there's a reason why no one likes you. Why should I feel sorry for this character? Why should I? But that's just the way we grew up. The audience is different.
Mhm.
Yeah, who have been told as cowards as well. You have to respect the audience. It isn't
Yeah.
about you.
Mhm.
It's the audience. And I felt on Futurama that, you know, people tell you, throughout your life at least, that you're not supposed to imitate what's on television. Television is not supposed to reflect life. I had a
Mhm.
feeling we were grooming people in adult
Mhm.
time. It's just like looking at the men who are available to marry were not marryable. They were They were Fry Farnsworth. They were Homer Simpson. They are Peter Griffin. That's not marryable, Mr. Mary is Peter Cavill as Napoleon Solo. Not Peter Cavill, Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill
Yeah.
as Napoleon Solo in A Man from Uncle,
Mhm.
Fry Farnsworth? No. And I it looks like I was going to be on another show about another whining, complaining character called Invader Zim.
Mhm.
And I was on Peaky and Pocus Adventures in Starland. One of my friends from Delbert just said, "Hey, I hope you're in San Francisco. Come and work for me. Come and work on this show. It's a girl show. You love girl shows. You're crying about not being able to work on a girl show. The girl shows, the girl isn't a loser." For the most part. It was absolutely
Mhm.
fabulous, but they looked fabulous while being losers as well. And Saffron was there to say, pull up your socks, and get, and stop being annoying to other people.
Right.
Not really restored to that in Futurama, but not enough. Not, it just, right, don't get me started. Yeah, too many, two adult prime time shows back to back made me leave. Alright. So I saw nothing but adult prime time in
Yeah.
my future. So I worked on Peaky and Pilgrim's Adventures in Starland, was more like a Space Jam situation where I got to work directly with the writers as a
Mhm.
storyboard artist instead of it trickling down through a director. Having to interpret him. That's a real skill, by the way. If you're anyone warn anyone in animation
Mhm.
who a newbie in animation is that you have to be able to interpret directors, and not all of them have the communication skills that you are used to.
Mhm.
So it can be really tricky, really tricky. When you really resonate with the characters, that's not much of a problem. But if it's a character who's nothing like you and
Mhm.
nothing like your social circle, that's hard. It is really hard to do a good job because you don't understand what's going on, because you cannot act like this character,
Yeah.
and then you're learning other filmmaking techniques like perspective and that camera. Character layout's hard. It's a great precursor to storyboard. If a job ever comes up like that, I was advised by my mentors at Space Jam, please take that job because
Mhm.
you are considered seasoned after you do character layout. It's just a pretty job. Anywho,
Mhm.
Peaky and Poco, marvelous, working directly with the writers, back where I grew up, San Francisco, shining, happy, jolly people again, bright, wonderful instead of LA and just traffic, and that was marvelous. After that, grad school, because everything went 3D and the axe fell on everybody in the industry,
Mhm.
and had to learn 3D animation, and I was better at visual effects, compositing with After Effects, and that got me into Sesame Street, which was why we laughed magical experience in
Mm-hmm.
television animation. That was the ultimate. I mean, Sesame Workshop is just fantastic. Just running around New York, you go for reference. There's like libraries everywhere for whatever
Yeah.
assignment that you need. Everything is within walking distance, and the animation, or as my visual effects supervisor would describe, Ashanti, not animation, visual effects department. Hello, you transition to another profession, another department, visual effects department, and working on the live action set. It's just, yeah, that was wonderful, and I would love to do that again. That was the last great project I think that would be of interest to your audience, because the rest is just casino games, just for survival and just for the money, pay off the student
Mm-hmm.
loans. Because,
Right.
yeah, my mom fell ill after that, and I had to take care of her. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
end of the fun animation career for your audience purposes.
So, do you have any personal projects that you've worked on?
Plenty. The Calor Stone,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had, as a creative outlet, um, my webcomic, Hip Chick Comics, which is about
Mm-hmm.
goddesses mentoring artists, which is pretty much like, the people I admire, who you have a feeling that are not quite human, since everything goes so well with them, and they're able to handle like the most daunting projects almost effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this goddess is mentoring humans, and human artists, and just the adventures that that entails. So I have a webcomic, and in terms of films, I want to tie anything animated to my webcomic, and I'm just going to just focus it on that. Because I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed I'm good at making music videos, but I can't really use the music video for my own financial benefit. And while that's cute when you're 20 years old, it's not so cute when you're 50 and you have to think about your retirement. So the
Mm-hmm.
B-52s project I've been working on for years, yes, I'm sorry, I'm not going to finish that. I'll have it finished by someone else. I'm not going to finish that myself. It takes too much time,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
so concentrating on my own IP.
So, for your own IP, for the films you've done or anything else, like what is the through line of the stories that you like to tell?
I love hidden worlds. I like deities, especially female deities. I think it's because drawing men is my day job. Most animated characters are men.
Mm-hmm.
So since they have a day job, I can't wait to draw women. So the female deities who are not nice. They are creator, destroyer goddesses. They will kill you if you disrespect them. Hello, that's my mom, my aunt, any other authority figure growing up. To paraphrase Gem, glamour, glitter, fashion, and fame. I love beauty, but I
Mm-hmm.
love like a Walt Disney. It's a dichotomy. There's like the dichotomy of dark and light. There's beauty in the world. Beware the darkness. That's on the other side of it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be. I guess that would be the thing.
What's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
Yeah, I will be drawing mainly boys. Yeah.
Is that to prepare for the depression or to avoid it?
I'm still on the fence about that. I recently spent a weekend watching the G.I. Joe cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
and none of those characters offend me.
Mm-hmm.
The male characters didn't start offending me until 1999. When I had to work on Futurama.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between enjoying Homer Simpson as an audience member and having to have him live in your head as someone working on the show. I guess a friend of mine told me I was a method actor. I let the character live in here,
Oh
And I can
yeah.
still, and when I'm mad, I still say, "Bite my shiny metal out." It comes out. Because Bender is living in my psyche rent free. He won't leave. Bender
Mhm.
won't leave. I don't want him in there. I want Kim Possible in there. I want My Life as a Teenage Robot in there. I want just about any Gendy show, Gendy or Craig show in there. Wonderful,
Mhm.
marvelous characters. Wander over yonder, come on in. Lovely character to have in your head. Peter Griffin, no, get out of there. So I
Right.
won't work on that. Absolutely desperate. So yeah, had I known I was going to be working on a bunch of boy slobs, yeah, I would have gone into experimental animation and gone
Mm.
into visual effects live action instead. That's what CalArts
Mhm.
is like saying. That fine arts degree, a fine arts part of you, go get a degree in that first and transfer in. We have a feeling. It's amazing teachers can picture that.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a feeling that you're going to be more, you know, than just, going straight into animation. And
Yeah.
I thank Christine Panushka, who was the second chair of CalArts' experimental department, for
Mhm.
recognizing that in me. I'm forever grateful. She's now a chair at USC, their
Mhm.
animation department. If people are ever, interested in that. So, yeah.
So what school did you go to before CalArts?
The San Francisco Art Institute. Not AI, it was a school called the San Francisco Art Institute. A
Mhm.
little fine art school on Russian Hill. Um, that and conceptual art was the art was the movement to study at the time was structuralism. Think Pee Wee's Playhouse and Mike White's work.
Mhm.
It's just like freedom to just explore ideas, and less on technique. And I think that's where my wellspring of ideas for design, especially, and creating worlds comes from. So yeah, fine art is good. It's not
Yeah.
always, growing apples or
Um.
whatever.
Sure. What would you say is your superpower? It doesn't have to be animation related.
My friend Stephanie says my superpower is my different lens on the world.
Mhm.
Is Kat Thorson, her married name is Kat Good now. She's a director for various studios now. And she used to say to me in freshman year, when we went to school together, Ashanti, what color is the sky in your world? you know? I guess I have like this Sesame Street kind of view of the universe, and I and I guess it keeps my creativity going and keeps me
Mhm.
happy. You know,
Mhm.
but at the same time, people think I'm a little screwy, but let me be screwy. I'm happy.
So, like, what advice could you give other people of how to navigate the world as such a unique person? Like, have you figured that out and can give tips to other people, or are you still figuring it out?
Still figuring it out. Don't make enemies.
Mhm.
Please don't make enemies.
Mhm.
Watch as much 70s Sesame Street as you can if you want to know how to, make people love you. I mean, how can anyone hate Grover? Okay. Watch Lean. I mean, see a lot of this social anxiety, all over the internet, and I'm like,
Mhm.
and every once in a while, I'll go on YouTube and find this skit, little song between Lena Horne and Grover about
Mhm.
how to overcome shyness, and I'll
Mhm.
slip it into the comments section. It's just like, that's how you make friends. Give it a try. Not everyone is evil. Not everyone is going to judge you. But you do have to
Yeah.
find your tribe.
Yeah.
You can't go up and look everybody's face.
Mhm.
You know. And at the same time, you want to say, I only want to be surrounded by artists. Because you exclude so many other people as well. I
Mhm.
mean, find people who love you That's all I can say. You try to be sunny and happy and cheery while you're at it.
But
How does this cheery?
what I learned the hard way was like, sometimes when you think things about other people and it's a projection, it actually is how you come off. So like, when I was living in New Orleans, I was very active in the Urban League movement, and I'll go to these conferences, and I had a thought, like, since my childhood, like, I'm not memorable, nobody remembers me. Even if I had a full conversation with somebody last year at a conference, they won't remember me the next year. So maybe I felt like sometimes I would see these people again, and I'm not interacting with them because I'm like, oh, you obviously don't remember me. But for me to think that, they think, oh, she's like stuck up because I had a whole conversation with her last year and she's not even saying hi. And so sometimes the way you see other people is how you're projecting yourself to the world because of the erroneous thoughts that you have, that other people may not remember you or they're scary or something like that. That kind of makes you the thing that you're thinking they are. That's what I discovered.
There's some very clear advice from Nichiren Buddhism. What you don't like in someone else is actually a reflection of yourself. So it's like, before you criticize, and that's a good heart thing to do. Remember, okay, all right, what is it? Oh, check myself first. Yeah. Check myself first. And I didn't find that negativity in myself until I became a high school art teacher. And from 21 to 22, I just couldn't take it anymore. And it wasn't so much the students, because once you really grind them, and really like get them on their path and get going, but then their parents call you and tell me, my kid now hates animation because you push them so hard, or why are you pushing my kid so hard? And I'm like, I'm preparing them for the world. That's my job.
Yeah.
And my mom would never say that. Because my mother, ever since I was 6.5 years old, said, as soon as you're 18, you're out of the house. So I always prepared. And you had lots of support too. Genesis PSA, Sesame Street. What are you going to do when you grow up? Sesame Street again. They're up with the skit. There is nothing we women can't be growing up. Zack of all trades, which was voiced by Luther Andros in our Saturday morning cartoons. Do your job. What is the future blob? They always drummed Gen X kids, at least, towards careers. I think those PAs stopped for Gen Z. And now the zeitgeist is more, and I agree with it, get along, everyone's different, not everyone learns at the same pace. However, when you're in a CTE class, it's design, get your kid ready for the real world. You have to drop the happy, friendly, I am special, Mr. Rogers thing, even though, keep it in your heart, That's what's going to steel you against all the conformity and the nonstop rat race drive of the industry. But you also have to have this other part of yourself that says, I must make friends, so my skills must be up to a certain standard. Move, compete, keep up. And I just turned into this awful person, just criticizing everyone around me, as a teacher. So I left before, that negativity completely ate me up. So things like that happen, and when you find yourself in that environment, get out of it. It's bad. People will say, oh, stick with it. This isn't my primary industry. I'm not going to stick with it. I'm going back to animation, where I can be a happy, chubby fairy again. And like turn back into it. And get out of this negative environment. So,
I was going to ask about your teaching experience. Was there any positives that you had?
Oh, but lots of positives. Just like any teacher will tell you, there are diamonds in the rough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so great when you get work out of them. And it's fantastic. And it's like, you write the letters of recommendation, to the colleges and say, this kid is going to be, one of your most creative people who could also, do the work at Disney Imagineering. And it's just like, preparing them for that to your college professor. You will not have no problem with them with behavior or blah, 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 blah. Or here's this marvelous person. And also the college students. Oh, wow. Ooh, I still have their films. It's just like, look at all these great things. And I got to teach that. It's like, I got to be the director on that. I didn't get to be a director in the industry yet. I'm not out of it yet. But this is sort of like, if I had stayed in the industry, my 40s would have been my tenure as a director. And that was but I spent it as a teacher, and I got some really fantastic films out of my students. Proud of them all. Proud of them all. And they're in the industry, and they still say hi to me on Facebook, and so on and so forth. Marvelous stuff.
Yeah, I remember I did a workshop when I lived in New Orleans, and they were on CP time, so I had to get started late, and so I had to kind of rush through my presentation part, and then I had to quickly teach them about because I did flip books with the post-it notes and I remember the kids did their bouncing ball, and one kid, his timing was really good, and I'm like, did I teach it? Because it was really quick, and I'm just like, wait, did I was I the catalyst for that? Or I was like, okay. And then I tutored a kid. He had autism, and it was cool. I tutored him in 3D, and so it was cool to see him go from I'm teaching him how to use Maya, and he's looking around things. I'm like, you can zoom in and you can rotate the scene to see what you need to see, and trying to teach him just the innate things that I know. And then several months later, he's just doing the stuff, and it's like, oh man, I taught him that.
Yeah. And Maya is great for kids with autism because autism is pretty much living 7/8 inside your head, and you want to stay there. And Maya is a great way to do that. 3D animation is here's this virtual world. I'm going to suck into it. And it's not like video games. Video games are fun, but you're not, it's kind of a time waster. You're not creating anything. But if you're working in Maya and Blender, Legos, sculpting, drawing, whatever, you are creating something tangible, something good came out of this besides strategy, and escapism. Yeah. It's marvelous for people with autism. Isn't art fantastic?
Yes.
Isn't it great? Right? Love it. How dare they AI it?
Right.
Yeah, it's just no. The human psyche will fight back. Don't worry.
Yeah. Hopefully, we will win.
The Congress will say no.
If you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be? I was gonna say it could be multiple. It could be multiple.
And it isn't really an industry. It's the audience. That's what CalArts, which is very... where did you go to school?
I went to Rochester Institute of Technology in upstate New York.
If they have a story department, they probably would have taught you the same thing. You have to respect your audience. And when you go there, me going there, and me growing up African American, I'm not quite sure if it was prevalent in your generations. I think you're a millennial or Gen Z.
I'm an elder millennial.
elder millennial. Not quite sure if it's just come into your head the way it was with us,
Mm-hmm.
the baby boomer parents, but there since Gen X was the first to be completely born outside of segregation. You still
Yeah.
had baby boomer parents, and
Mm-hmm.
baby boomer parents, and just the spirit of the age, that guys, still had that mantra of you can never be as smart as a white person if you're black.
You have to work twice as hard to get half as far.
Work twice as hard to prove yourself equal.
Mm-hmm.
So you do all that twice as hard to prove yourself equal growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get into the story department and you learn about your audience. And you realize people are average to below average.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this was a lie. I killed myself for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I could have just been just average, so you're angry. I'm still angry.
Mm-hmm.
Happy for what I've learned from the hard
Mm-hmm.
work of working twice as hard to prove myself equal. My mother friend calls me Fraser Crane because you know how Fraser has it's an intellectual almost to snobbery. You did all this work try to be Fraser Crane, and everyone who's supposed to be so much smarter than you, and you realize most people in the world are not. They are average. And you have to create content for people who have no great highs and no deep lows. Also notice people who are engineers, the most respected people in our society, at least that's the way boomers who grew up with Sputnik were taught. And it continued through Gen X in our 80s cartoons, where all the heroes were scientists, all the heralds were scientists were
the Jetsons.
Yeah, who could not, or G.I. Joe, Dr. Delaney, and this formula that Cobra must have, Dr. Quest, and you realize even when they want to be entertained, they reduce to an 8th grade education. They don't want to be educated, they want to be entertained. So you have to think about what you like at 13 years old and not go above it. Any knowledge you have above it. And that is hard.
Yeah.
I admire people who can tell a story on that level. We wouldn't have an indie, especially nowadays, because although filmmakers are trying, like Zack Snyder with Batman and Superman, the audience hated so much. That's the Epic of Gilgamesh, if you read that story. Gilgamesh and the Enkidu, Batman and Superman. But who has read the Epic of Gilgamesh? No one. So Zack Snyder using that story, it didn't resonate. It resonated with Miyazaki and Princess Mononoke. That's also the Epic of Gilgamesh, But Miyazaki has that magical way of don't exceed knowledge beyond the 8th grade, or when you do, coax that audience to actually research. Like little kids, I forgot what the kind name. The little ghost of kids in the forest. People were actually researching. American audience, Western audience, I should say, were actually researching. What is that? What are all these creatures? They were curious. They actually did what O.G. Readmore told us. Read more about it. But you can't count on that with most stories, And you can't count on your audience looking things up that they don't understand anymore, You should have could in the 80s. Indiana Jones, with that, it resonated. Would anybody look up, the Ark of the Covenant in World War II and the Nazis' campaigns in Egypt and elsewhere? Would they have looked that up? Right. Nowadays? No, they wouldn't. So that audience, that's just average or below average, and you have to tell stories for it. It's hard. It's extremely difficult. So,
I
props
feel
to
like
you to share your
I feel like all three of my
Mm.
boomer parents, I got a pretty good set of boomer parents. And like to have a father, like, well, like all my parents are very intelligent.
Mhm.
And my dad has a PhD. I grew up with my father from in my teenage years, and so and my
Mhm.
stepmom, and so like to and I'm his 2.0, so I'm really smart, and to
Mhm.
deal with being smart in a world where a lot of people don't care about thinking. I
Mhm.
finally talked to one of my friends and like last year, and he was telling me it kind of gave me solace. It was like your intelligence is not for other people; it's for you to navigate the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
Because as a like I used to hate when I was a child and people would call me like a know-it-all or a goody two-shoes, but I didn't know the behaviors that I was doing to warrant that. Because
Mhm.
I didn't have that self-awareness. Now I know, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that is kind of a bit much to behave in
Mhm.
that way. But I would always think as a natural like Virgo say, my thought was always to
Mhm.
like share my knowledge with people, and it's like not everybody wants your
Mhm.
knowledge, and so it's like it's for you. It's for you to navigate the world. It's not always for everybody else.
Channel it into a story, into your own
Mm-hmm.
project, and that's where you get to express it. It's like you
Yeah.
filmmakers channel it into that film that will actually that is a contender for the Oscars, and release it during the fall because that's when your audience will actually look up. Actually have time, to take time out of their busy lives of being
Mm-hmm.
managers and so on and so forth, and go to the theater. You know, learning about your audience. Yeah, that's,
I've never heard anybody articulate the thought that you did, and so it made me think like you know how with family movies they have the parts that are for the kids and then the parts are for the adults. With what you're saying, I'm like, I wonder if we can kind of amalgamate that into like creating stories where yeah we're creating stories for like eighth grade level, but maybe there's some stuff in there for the intelligent like the super nerdy intelligent people, and like kind of like a similar way with
it,
the family movies.
it takes an extraordinary storyteller for that. Walt Disney
Yeah.
was one. Miyazaki is another. Pete Doctor and the original Pixar crew they are as well. Linda
Mhm.
Chapman is also a fantastic person.
Mhm.
Michael Reeves of Gargoyles. Good God, if my comic, if I could ever trust anyone with my comic, he sadly passed away. But if you ever
Mhm.
watched the '90s show Gargoyles, brilliant
Mhm.
storytelling. There are a
Mhm.
lot of brilliant storytellers out there who can marry art with industry.
Mhm.
They can
Mhm.
do that. And that's what every filmmaker strives to achieve. Some are more talented at it than others. So. And there are always hits and misses, even with the best guys. Even with the best people. Always hits and misses. It's
Yeah.
tough. You know? But fun. But it's too bad the mistakes cost like, I don't know, 150 million a pop.
Yeah.
To make. Yeah. That's the trouble with all that experimentation. It's like you never know what's gonna hit.
So
You
as
know,
we're
I have
talking about this, what do you hope for the future of animation as far as innovation, storylines, characters, etc.?
to answer the last question too. I what okay, what I would change about the industry, more independent films like we had in the '90s.
Mhm.
So you can find that niche audience. That's what I would change. That's sorry
Mhm.
for wasting your time on that. Now for this.
It was a
Now,
lovely ride.
yeah, it was, but there's no more money. Video games for the way our audience. Mm, what would I like? be innovative. Continue to work for female-led roles.
Mm-hmm.
Make them good. Make them good. It's not that's difficult. I would like to see more risks, where we get to see what the filmmaker would like to bring to the audience, rather than us constantly worrying about the audience, the audience, the audience, the audience. You know, because you get a more authentic story that way. Some things are still gonna stick, you know, and people are wondering why do people like this so much. All right, go ahead, roar, and but I would like to see more independent efforts with the money behind it, and have it turn out well. And I'm thinking about Betty Davis's films, of course. She would argue with directors to her last drop of blood when she felt that she was being steered wrong. And those films would come out gems. Woman knew what she was doing, knew what she was doing. You know, she really did. Walt Disney taking this. Ooh, Pinocchio was a horror film. Oh, they don't come back as boys. Wow, that face on, on that villain would never, you could never tell, you could never use that today. With Walt Disney's first 5 films, more experimentation with big money like that. But I do not want the filmmaker making compromises for the audience at all. Just a few risks. And Disney does that every once in a while. They'll do that every once in a while. Disney and DreamWorks. Once they have their coffers filled with Hannah Montanas and so on, so on, so forth, all those audience pleasers things, nothing wrong with Hannah Montana. She was popular and she made Disney a lot of money. That's why I mentioned that. Once they fill their coffers, they'll expand. But I'm worried now because our audience is now not only competing with video games, but they're competing with social media and other distractions. And I don't know if we'll ever get them back. I don't know if film will do that anymore. But yeah, I would like to see more risks.
When you were mentioning the movies you wanted, I was thinking about the Barbie movie and how it was cool. Like when the guys who got dragged to the movie by their wives or girlfriends were like, "Oh, I actually enjoyed this." Like, and I wonder, like, yeah, because I feel like when you're saying you want more female-led movies, I obviously, because of how society is now, it's like social justice warrior. Why are we so woke? And it's just like, oh my god, like. What is the way we can have more people who don't look like you that you vibe with? Like, no way. Like, oh my god. And so I just thought, like, not that those guys who were going to see that movie were necessarily like the guys I'm talking about, but it was cool to see like them be like, oh, like I actually enjoyed the Barbie movie. Maybe I was dragged to the movie by my significant other, but it was like a really good movie. And so I hope we get like stories that can convert more people to women.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
As for African American representation, I would like more of us who did not grow up in, more stories about us who did not grow up in rough areas. People more like me, people more like you. We're more universal in our worldview. I would like to see Cree Summer and Lisa Bonet in the film. I would love that. I would love to see those two. Just the more bohemian aspect of African American culture. The Santeria. I would like to see more of our pre-colonial history. From Mali and Senegal, the griots, all their stories. I would like to see our mythology I'm working on that for the last chapter of my comic. I'm doing research for that now, and that's not going to come around till I'm 60 because I want it to be well done. Thank you very much.
I have standards.
And I want to visit these countries.
Oh, nice.
Not everybody. I want to know. I want audiences to know about the Battle of Tondibi and how we were defeated. Mali was defeated, and that was the impetus for the slave trade because Mali had to keep going, so they sold their own people from their tribute countries. Not everyone knows about them. And the story I would love, which is kind of like our King Arthur, is the story of Mansa Ku, more widely known as Abu Bakari. He was the last of the Kejas who abdicated his throne to Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was the emperor who went to Egypt to get the scribes to write down Mali's history because he had the foresight, just like the proto-Renaissance in Europe. No one's going to respect you unless you're with an oral history. You need to have it written down. So he went and recruited scribes and integrated with his people. And so before his reign, there was a Keita who abdicated his throne. Mali was rich enough, and this guy was basically bored and said, I just know there is another land on the other side of the Atlantic, and I want to go. I want to go. He sent 200 ships, and they all got caught in the Canary Gyre, which is this huge whirlpool just outside of West Africa. Just beneath the Canary Islands. Columbus missed it by that much. He would have been caught in it as well. And then that Keita, Mansa Ku says, I think I'll go myself, and this time I'll launch 1,000 ships. So at least some of us could at least make it to the other side if there is another side.
Yeah.
He was lost. No one knows if he went down to the southern tip of Africa to avoid the Canary Gyre, or got lost in it. But this last part is hearsay. But there's there's a notion that perhaps at least some of the boats from that 1,000 strong convoy made it to the West Indies, because when Columbus arrived in the West Indies and explored, some people said he fell on the island. Says, no, you're not the first. There are black men who came from the east. They traded in gold spears. See, So I would love a story about that. It doesn't have to be like we're first, whatever. Throw away that bravado, whatever. Someone went and explored. That's the point.
Yeah.
Someone explored from Mali, and it's just like Mali was rich enough, an African country was rich enough and comfortable enough to sponsor art and exploration. They got caught in the Canary Gyre, but they did it. And I think, have you ever seen the third Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah.
You know how Calypso turned into a huge whirlpool?
Yeah.
I think that whole series is all mythology based, and I think that I should ask the writers if I ever meet them. I would like to know if that was their nod to the Canary Gyre. That's outside of West Africa. Also, a few of our hurricanes. I would like to know that. Yeah. So, I would love that story to be told. It's like, yes, I can make $1 million and then say, yes, it's my idea, make it. I didn't know. Who cares about the money? Somebody make the story. And I want it on Pirates of the Caribbean money scale. I want it on that scale.
Yeah.
I totally do. That would be fantastic. Jared Bruckheimer, do you see this podcast? Yes, please. Make that. I would love it. Hire me. I want to be on the writers team.
Yes. So what are 3 movies and or TV shows you'd recommend to my audience, and why?
Anything by Genny Tartakovsky and Craig McCracken is fantastic. Okay. Primal, fantastic. Gargoyles before I went to Sagamore in the first and second season of Gargoyles.
Mm-hmm.
Ramona is one fantastic character, one fantastic guy.
Mm-hmm. Go into why you're suggesting Primal and Gargoyles.
Mythology and world mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And also just the layouts on Primal is the reason why it's so well done. For those who know what character layout is, because that job has gone mainly to Korea.
Yeah.
Unless you work on The Simpsons, which has a layout department, it is the job between storyboard and animation, where the artists tie down those storyboards, keep those characters on model, and putting them in perspective, and moving the characters along with the camera. And there are a lot of tracking shots. That way, all the animator has to do is worry about acting and physics and acting. They're not doing the math, except for, of course, timing and everything like that. Yeah. And the layouts are how tight and marvelous and still lovely and free Primal is. That is an example of good layout. Darn good layout. That's also really great anime films. With those great Sakugais. Think of Lupin Sakuga in Castillo Cagliostro. Yes, that's the animator, but also the layout artist as well. Did the math for him. Yeah. So he wouldn't have to think of, oh god, the camera, in perspective, and now dealing with, I have to make this move and act and do all the cool things, that cards do, So, yeah, movies. Wow.
So, as an experienced professional, how can you tell when the character layout is lacking?
The characters that are really mushy. That's fair. That is from the character who's not adhering to a horizon line.
Okay.
They're just drawing in. The animator did not have time, but it's not really his job. That's the layout artist's job to pull that character on model and making sure that it's in perspective. Therefore, things that should not be, arcs that should be above the horizon line, and they're and there are certain arcs below the horizon line, and they get all mushed out when there's not a horizon line and a vanishing point established.
Okay.
You can tell. Just look at any 90s television animation. I mean, when character layout really a lot of it went overseas. It's like a really, really mushy episode. Yeah, an experienced animator, someone in the industry, maybe maybe growing up, and perhaps definitely by their junior year in school, will be able to see it. Yeah. Those animator episodes, animation for episodes, versus the C animation, the greater crew. The greater crew is still, is still working on perspective, in layout, or the layout isn't there.
If someone was producing a documentary about you, what would you want them to highlight outside of your work in art, animation, games? Outside of your career, essentially.
Do I have a life outside of my career? I'm an animator. I am an animator. There's no life outside of my career. I draw. Okay. As Corny Cole used to say, look him up if you don't know who he is. He worked on a lot of the Wile E. Coyote cartoons and Pink Panther. He used to tell us, you draw, you draw, you draw, you draw, you draw, you draw, you draw some more, draw some more, draw some more, and then you die. I'm an animator, there's nothing else. Aside of here, I have really great friends. Survival is tricky. That would be interesting. Survival animation and the odd jobs I do. Right now, I'm a machine operator.
Nice.
in the woods in Sonoma, living in my friend's cabin, until the industry, expands again because after the strikes, not because of the strikes, it's because of AI. With AI, and everyone's trying to figure out what to do about that in the industry. And I'm pretty sure the AMTP is also thinking about how do we protect our IP from AI.
Yeah.
They are concentrating on that. They are not greenlighting any shows, so it won't get ripped off, by AI technology. People using AI for the wrong reason. Because Chris Sanders' robot just came out, his wild robot.
Yeah.
Guess who just popped out a film about, some kind of robot that's also in the forest through AI.
Who?
Not who, but some random person.
Okay.
Is AI. A copy of the film. Just to make money off of it.
Yeah.
You see what the danger is there? Why the producers need to contract for a while? Outside the industry now, I'm outside of the womb. I'm having fun as a machine operator and using that life experience. And I'm pretty sure if there's other Transformers and I can get on it, I would have so many great contributions on their project. Or as my boss would say, if there's any more Wile E. Coyote cartoons, yes. The things that go on in the machine shop. Or Dr. Bunsen Honeydew, the Muppets want to go and have a Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker cartoon. Any kind of lab cartoon where things go wrong.
Yeah.
We'll have some music that for that. So the odd job keeps life interesting outside of the room of being an animator.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to follow you on social media or anywhere, if anybody wants to see your work, where can they find you?
For animation, animators.com. The comic book, hipchitcomics.com. And on social media, Ashanti Ghania at Instagram.
So I would like to thank you for allowing me to highlight you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for pursuing.
I love the uniqueness of conversation that you brought that I've never thought about. So I appreciate that.
Sure. Always think of, odd jobs outside of animation, make them fun and use them for story gag. We all get sucked into storyboard, without working, and you have to think of gags, so use all of your life experience. Write things down, keep a diary, do storyboards in the sketchbook, so you can use it later while you're working.
Definitely. So to everyone out there, I want you to like So I Know It's Real, comment and tell me how you feel, subscribe to Citadel, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.